Welcome to Media Rebel Unplugged. I'm your host, Janice Becker, and today I am joined with Sarah Vojtek from Stewarts Caring Place, and we are going to talk today about cancer, the services that they offer, and also the survivorship of Sarah herself. So Sarah, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is truly an honor.
Would you tell everybody a little bit about your story and how you got involved with Stewarts Caring Place?
My female cousin was diagnosed with breast cancer. After doing a self-exam, my mom said to my sister and I, your cousin is diagnosed with breast cancer. She found out doing a self-exam. If you two aren't already doing it, you probably should. There's no history in our family of it, but just the fact that someone so close was diagnosed. I did a self-exam, a few of them late in 2019, and felt something. So I went to my doctor and at first was dismissed. I am a mom of 2 daughters. I had breastfed, all the things they tell us. I was considered too young at the time, but I couldn't let it go. And so I went back for a second opinion. I will say to anyone listening, it is so important to advocate for yourself. If you feel like something's wrong, keep pushing until it's figured out. So I did a second opinion and they agreed that we should go in for a mammogram. So I was scheduled for my first mammogram. And, I got my treatment here in Akron at the Summa Breast Center, which I can't say enough good things about. I went in on a Monday for a mammogram. The tech saw something, asked if I could stay, and they immediately did an ultrasound and asked if I could stay for a biopsy. So at the time, I thought I was just going in for peace of mind, and it all escalated quickly. But I'm so appreciative of that because I know some people, their experience is weeks between these tests. So regardless of what the outcome was going to be, I at least knew that I was going to have some answers relatively quickly. That was on a Monday, and by that Wednesday, I got a call from my breast surgeon that said it was in fact breast cancer.
So right before COVID.
Right before COVID, I think the world started to talk about COVID, but no one thought it was going to be hit as close to home yet. So I was just dealing with this sudden cancer diagnosis and went through a few weeks of different testing to make sure it hadn't spread, which it had not. It was maybe in a few lymph nodes, but we started to lay out what my treatment plan was going to be. And I opted for a double mastectomy. It was only in my right breast, but I am a stats girl and I am give me the best percentage type of person. And so with my amazing breast surgeon, she said that if I wanted a double mastectomy, she'd be happy to write it that way. So that's what I opted for. So my initial surgery date was March 18th of 2020. I was actually working for a different company at the time and I was in charge of our big event, which was scheduled for March 18th. So I said to my doctor, can we push it back a week? And my husband's rolling his eyes at me and the doctor said, sure. So my surgery date was going to be March 25th, 2020. And March 1st hit and the world started going into this tailspin, if you remember, because COVID was happening a lot faster than anyone had anticipated. March 14th, my breast surgeon called and said, hey, we don't know what COVID's going to do to the hospital system. We don't want to wait on your surgery. Can we move it up? So I ended up going in on March 18th, which was my original date anyhow, testing of the tumor that was removed and determined a treatment plan with my oncologist. And so in the months following, I did 8 rounds of chemotherapy over 16 weeks, so once every other week. That was from May to August, and then did 30 rounds of radiation once a day, Monday through Friday, and was done in October of 2020. And I'm happy to report that no evidence of disease currently.
That's wonderful. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So how did you then pivot from where you were to where you are now with Stewarts Caring Place?
Great question. I came out of this diagnosis and this crazy time in our world and felt compelled to do something with my diagnosis to help others. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what that was. But I had so much support around me. Unfortunately, cancer is almost everywhere. And so when I started sharing my journey, I was pretty vocal and transparent about it. That's just how I am. So on social media, family, friends, everybody knew. But I connected with people or friends of friends who were going through something or had already been through it. So I wanted to figure out how I could be there for somebody else and what did that look like. My employer was great through my time, but I had been at that organization for 10 years and thought it's time for a change. I was connected to Stewarts Caring Place. Everyone asked me, did I use their services? I did not. I was stubborn. I didn't want to ask for help. I thought I could do it on my own. I didn't need anybody's help. I'm going to head down, do this for myself. But Stewart's Caring Place, who at the time was hiring a director of development, and my background had been in donor relations and events. So it seemed like a good fit for me. I kind of took a leap of faith. I didn't know what being around cancer all day, every day was going to do to my emotional state. I didn't know if it would be triggering for me, but I went ahead and took the leap, and am so happy that I did.
So what year did you join them?
I joined in August of 21. I started as the director of development.
Oh, wow. So that's a pretty short time span between diagnosis, surgery, chemotherapy, and now a new career.
Yep.
And to manage it so graciously as you have, it's really commendable. You know, a lot of women do that. We take care of other people. We're normally the last ones that we take care of, especially if you're a mom, especially if you're a single mom like I am. It's always kids first, you know, employees first, spouse or significant other. So I get where you would say, okay, I don't need these services. I can handle this on my own. But do you look back and go, I wish I had known about this then?
Yeah, absolutely. And even not just for myself, I had a husband and my two young daughters at home, and they could have used some support too. And so Stewart's Caring Place, we wrap around the entire family, the entire network of people who are affected by a cancer diagnosis.
What do you offer? And I know it's a lot, so I'm going to preface this that it's a lot of services. If you can't cover them all, we are going to let everybody know where to find you as well for more information. But is it something that you also would have to be local, being that we're in Akron, for people to use, or could you be virtually anywhere?
Great questions. I'll start a little bit about our mission and kind of dive into our programs and services. And you're right, we offer a lot, so I'm not going to give the whole laundry list here. But we do provide programs and services at no cost to anyone impacted emotionally or mentally by a cancer diagnosis. As I mentioned, we know that the patient obviously feels that emotional burden of a cancer diagnosis, but so do the spouses, caregivers, children, friends, neighbors, even colleagues feel a certain way when they find out a loved one or a friend has been diagnosed. So anyone who has that kind of emotional burden of a cancer diagnosis is welcome through our doors. We really try and focus on anything that can help. While we know the medical treatment is of the utmost importance, there's so much more that goes into it, right? We offer support groups, and not just for the patient. Again, we have caregiver support groups. We have a grief support group, and then we have some cancer specific, some general support groups, and some counseling services. We have a food pantry because sometimes the financial burden of a diagnosis takes its toll. And then we do some other things. We have massage and Reiki, which are very popular services that are meant for that stress relieving component. We do a lot of family and children's programming, physical fitness classes, just anything that lightens the emotional burden.
And they don't have to be here, right? You have some virtual counseling and other services, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We all learned how to use Teams and Zoom and all the technologies. Coming out of COVID, what we found was sometimes people can't get to us because of transportation issues or they live too far out. They may not be able to be shoulder to shoulder with somebody else because they're going through treatment and may be immunocompromised. Whatever the reason is, a majority of our programs and services that could remain virtual are still offered. I mean, you can either attend in person or virtually. So things like our physical fitness classes, yoga, support groups all have an option to attend virtually. We do have our location in Fairlawn. We actually just merged late last year with a location in Canton. So we have two physical locations, but we reach into, I think we're up to like 30 Ohio counties, and we even have some participants and families out of state now.
I don't think there's a single person out there who hasn't known somebody diagnosed with cancer, sadly, and has been affected by it. And I couldn't even tell you the number of family members and friends that I've known either impacted or sadly have passed away. And most recently, a few months ago, a family member of mine passed, and her sisters were having a really hard time. Where do I go? Who can I talk to? And I wish I would have known of your services then, and I'm still going to recommend you. Because I definitely think it's something that would be super beneficial, because even right before that, I think less than a year before their sister passed away from cancer, they lost their mom to Alzheimer's. So sometimes you're having multiple losses and then dealing with a cancer diagnosis that out of nowhere Okay, so I love knowing now that there's something for them to have as a resource.
Absolutely. And I think something you said is important to point out too is oftentimes people think I was only eligible for your services during the time of treatment or during the time my loved one was going through it. And we know that the mental and emotional impact of a diagnosis doesn't just go away. There's no expiration date. And so we say we serve anyone regardless of age, stage, or phase of the cancer journey. That can mean 6 months, it can mean 6 years from diagnosis, and whatever in between or after comes, our doors are always open.
I love that you have that very personal connection, but how do you try, aside from, being on our podcast and others, to get your story out there to help others?
I like to share my story with any of our participants or families that come through my door who want to hear it. And we have a few survivors on staff, and we have found that when we mention that, when we open that up, that we are also survivors, you see the walls come down because people automatically know that you understand what they're going through. You have been there, you felt it. And I think that it provides a little bit of hope for what comes afterwards. I know everyone has a different outcome, but I am honored and blessed to be able to share my story and what my journey looked like and continues to look like now.
Love that. And I think you're right. Some people are open about it, and I think there's other people who want to be more private about it, but it's great when you can share your story and help other people the way that you are right now. Again, I really commend you for doing that.
Oh, thank you.
What advice would you give to someone recently diagnosed and at the same time trying to manage the career that they're in?
Yeah, it's tough. I mentioned I like being open, honest, and transparent. So I think it says a lot about your employer, how they manage it or how accommodating or not they are to it. Like I said, at the time my diagnosis was blessed to have an organization where my immediate boss had unfortunately had a young family member that had been through it. So she understood it on a more personal level than I could have ever asked for in terms of understanding, again, the emotional toll that goes with a diagnosis. But I think they say on average at time of diagnosis, you have about 100 doctors or treatment appointments. So trying to juggle all that with a career, I would say if your employer is not accommodating, then it's not the right employer for you. That's my opinion. I think that at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all people, and money matters, but I think heart matters even more.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hard to believe that there could be an employer out there that could look at somebody diagnosed with cancer and not be receptive to treatment that they have to have or time off of work. I've heard horror stories of it, and it does exist, very sadly. I have a friend who doesn't have insurance, and my best friend actually, and what I would say my sister, because I don't have a sister, she was just recently diagnosed with bladder cancer, and that was a very unexpected thing for her to find out, and then to kind of go, okay, well, what do I do now? I don't have insurance, and I have to have treatment. I have to have surgery to remove these tumors. They didn't even know who could do the surgery. Thankfully, a week after diagnosis, as you had kind of said with your situation of getting that surgery as fast as you could, right? Yeah. So that was great for her to have that done. And then now this is, I think, 2 or 3 weeks later. And today, just ironically, this wasn't scheduled before our podcast scheduling. She had to have her second surgery this morning to remove some more tumors that were still in existence there. So when you look at that financial burden, even though you're working, you may not have insurance. What advice do you have for them in that situation?
The hospital systems should be set up in a way that they can advocate on your behalf, on the patient's behalf. We often say the social workers are wonderful resources in the hospital systems because they should be connected to opportunities for financial assistance. They may know resources. They may have nonprofits in the area that they know of that can provide some financial assistance. I will speak to here in Akron. We have a wonderful network of resources that are specific to cancer that we are aware of. We at Stewarts Caring Place can't be everything to everyone, but our hearts are broken when we hear stories like that. But we have partnerships with other nonprofits that we can refer people to that may be able to provide some financial assistance. So I would say the first place to start is with the social workers in the hospitals. Sometimes there's positions called nurse navigators that can help with some of that as well, that should know of resources that can help.
I love that you pointed that out, because I don't think a lot of people would know to go to the hospital that you're at. I think some hospitals have been good about getting a social worker to a person that is uninsured, knowing that there's going to be a financial burden. But I think there are others that don't do that. I appreciate you sharing that. I know that that's something that you don't want to have to stress about, and you shouldn't have to stress about when you're looking at this diagnosis and this treatment and all the questions and feelings that go along with that. I mean, I know, they've mentioned for her, and there's different types of chemo treatments, and for hers, it's oral, and she was kind of like, I don't want to lose my hair. She's always had really thick hair. Well, when COVID hit, she got COVID, she lost half her hair, and now, of course, that's in the back of her mind, and everybody's affected differently by that. But one of the things I seen on your website was that you offer wigs for people. So would you tell us more about that?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It is actually a huge part of what we do. I didn't mention it earlier. So we have a beautiful wig salon where we have it set up just like you would go get your hair cut, with some chairs and mirrors and just wall upon walls and drawers upon drawers of wigs. We know that hair loss is the first visible sign of disease, especially for women. It's our confidence. It's part of our confidence. And that plays into our emotional well-being. And, to some people, it's just hair. It's going to grow back. Well, that's not what we think when we look in the mirror. So our wig salon is there for people to either make an appointment or stop by and get fitted for a wig, again, at no cost. Unfortunately, that is an added cost that goes along with chemotherapy and hair loss. And not everybody has that disposable income. I mean, if you were to go purchase a somewhat high quality wig, you're looking at least $300, if not more, for a wig. And so we are so blessed that we are able to offer those at no cost, so that people can leave feeling a little more confident than when they first came to us.
Wow, I don't know if I've ever heard of anybody doing that before, so I think it's something that's definitely unique about all the things that you do, all the resources that you have, and that one is so important for women. Like you said, we identify with our hair as a form of our beauty, and when you don't have control over it, that is, I think, one of the most devastating feelings. And it's hard enough. Again, you're dealing with a disease, your whole world's spinning, and then you're losing something that you identify with.
Yeah, absolutely. And something you said, it's out of your control, which is even more devastating. I know a lot of women opt to do like these shave parties or something like that. And I don't think doctors always get it. And they're like, well, you don't need to shave your head. Well, yes, I do, because I can control it on my time. I can decide when I'm ready, instead of it just falling out piece by piece. I can decide to take that into my own hands, and it feels like some control back, even though it's on the time of the chemotherapy drug and when it's going to start, producing that side effect. But once you decide, it is so empowering to just say, well, I'm going to take control of this part at least.
I love that you mentioned that. Is very empowering for women to say, okay, I know I can't control much of the situation, but I can do this. And to take that back and have that power back. And it's okay if some people don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. It's what makes you feel good, and not about what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if somebody comes in to get fitted for a wig, do they leave that day with it, or really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have our website and places to find us, but we have, I would wager, hundreds, if not up to 1,000 wigs at our disposal. We've been blessed by receiving significant donations in the forms of wigs, and that's something to point out too. A lot of people ask us, do you take donations of used wigs? And we actually partner with a local salon to get any donated wig professionally cleaned and put back on the shelf. Because of this kind of giving back or passing along, we have almost every color, cut, and style wig available. And if for some reason we don't, we have some wig companies that we can work with to try and find it.
So are those human hair or synthetic or combination?
They are actually synthetic. The human hair ones, while beautiful, they are harder to maintain. So from a storage perspective, as well as not giving our participants one more thing to have to worry about, being extra careful with this wig that they just got, ours are currently all synthetic.
That's good to point out, though, because I've seen the effects of chemo on people. You're tired, and the last thing you want to think about is, how do I take care of this? And it's something that would be an extra challenge.
Yes,
that
for
makes
sure.
complete sense.
Yeah.
What's a lesson that cancer has taught you personally?
It sounds so cliche, but you're stronger than you know. And it's one of those things where you can say, yeah, I'm a strong person, but then you reflect back. It's crazy. It's to see what my body went through and that I'm still standing. It's crazy to know what I went through emotionally, especially during that time. Everyone has a hard time just knowing that I did it. I got through it. We say it all the time, but when you put it into practice and look back, it's just crazy.
I know you mentioned the concern initially with joining this position at Stewart's Caring Place and how that would impact you and maybe even trigger some feelings for you with your own journey. What would be the biggest takeaway for you in this role of leadership?
I was very concerned that it was going to trigger me in some way to be talking about cancer all day, every day. But I have found that it's actually the opposite. It's therapeutic. It's therapeutic to share my story, to help in any way that I can, even sometimes bring hope. We talked about hair loss, but what people don't talk about is hair loss is all hair loss. So eyelashes, eyebrows, it all goes. And so I made the decision once I was able to and medically cleared to do the microblading, the tattoos of your eyebrows. And so I'm often the eyebrow model at Stewart's Caring Place. One of my colleagues will come get me and say, hey, she's really worried about what her eyebrows are going to look like or what she's going to do when she's able to. So it's fun to show people like, oh, you can totally get a face tattoo and no one will even know.
Yeah.
So that type of thing. And relating it to leadership, I think it's just doing what your passion is, doing what pulls at your heart. I didn't ever know that cancer was going to be my passion until I went through it. And now it is. I would just say for any leader, if you have the passion for it, the rest of it just comes along.
I think you're so inspiring for everything that you do. And I think it's sometimes really hard when we go through something like that. You probably had a million questions of what's next. And to go through a situation where you could choose to say, woe is me, and it's okay if some people do. I'm not saying that. But to kind of take away from that and go, okay, I can overcome this and now be in a role where you get to help people daily. That has to also make you feel good to go, okay, that wasn't for nothing. Everything that you went through was to build you into the person that you're truly meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. When I made the decision to take the leap of faith to join Stewart's Caring Place, I had to do something with this diagnosis and I didn't know what it was. So I just threw my hands up and said, let's see where this takes us. So it was a beautiful story when I sit back and reflect on it, but not something I ever set out intentionally to. Once I got that diagnosis, I had no idea what that was going to do.
What's one thing that you hope listeners take away from this today?
I think one thing is be your own advocate, and that can be in anything. We hear it all the time, especially as women. I think that is something that has bubbled up when I've been telling my journey. Is that you gotta fight for yourself and do what feels right for you. No one can tell you how you feel. Just listen to your gut.
I think everybody that listens to this is definitely going to take at least one thing away. We've touched on many things that can really help people and their families and friends to have that resource of information available to them that they didn't even know, especially from a virtual standpoint. I love that you still offer that. And as some people, when COVID started to go away, they removed that availability. So to still have that as a resource is very great.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you again for being here. For those that are in need and would want to learn more about you and about Stewart's Caring Place, where should they go?
Sure. You can start on our website. So Stewarts, Stewarts, caringplace.org. Our doors are open 9 to 5. We have the Fairlawn location that's open Monday through Friday, and we now have a Canton location that's open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Our website has all of our information, our address, our phone number. If you're ready to get some services with us, there's a link on the homepage for a registration or participation form. Fill that out, and one of our staff will be in contact within 2 to 3 days. We try not to make it any longer than that, and get you connected to what services you may be needing.
That's great. And what about those that might be interested in making a donation or volunteering?
We are funded by what we say is the generosity of this wonderful community. We do not receive government funding, and because we are non-medical, we do not bill insurance. So we really rely on foundation grant support as well as individual and corporate giving. And we do that through donations. We have our large fundraisers every year. So all of that can be found on our website as well. We are a small but mighty, and we could not do what we do without our amazing army of volunteers, and are always looking for more. So on the website as well, there will be, everything should be in the give back, which is the donate, and then a volunteer form. So your time, talent, and treasure can all be found there on our website as well.
Awesome. Thank you. I really hope that people will take advantage of your resources, and if they don't need them at this current state, I do hope they will make a donation or volunteer with your organization. I personally think that what you do is absolutely amazing, and I hope that it continues to grow and flourish as it is. And I think it will as you continue to help others.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been truly an honor to sit here and speak with you, and so appreciative of this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Media Rebel Unplugged. Again, I'm your host, Janice Becker, joined with Sarah Vojtek today from Stewarts Caring Place. We hope that you will like and subscribe and follow along with us. And if you know somebody that would be a great guest on our show, please click the link in the description. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you soon.